any health in your body, I put it there.
So excited!
If you have life instead of death, it was I that gave it to you.
This motherfucker don't miss.
If you have salvation, I brought it.
You can't keep getting away with it.
So if I created the words, I can damn well use them.
Finish him.
Hip-hop's favorite late-night show.
I love the game. I love the hustle.
The Alternative with Melvin Taylor. Right here, WHCR 90.3 FM, New York.
No, he's f***ing good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
If y'all are ready like I am, then let's go ahead and start the show.
What up, world? It is your man, Melvin Taylor, a.k.a. Melvin Taylor. We are back for another interview that's going to be right here on the Alternative Radio Show. Remember, you can find us every single week, Monday nights, 11:55 p.m. until 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on WHCR 90.3 FM New York, the voice of Harlem, or you can find our replays on our Mixcloud page, or if Mixcloud is a little too difficult for you, you can also go on YouTube and find us at hashtag TheAltWIthMel, or on my personal YouTube page, Melvin Taylor II, 17,500 and growing. Let's see if we can hit 25K by the end of this year. Today, y'all know I'm happy, bro. You know your boy slept good because the Lakers ended up beating the Nuggets because, you know, in closeouts, we make sure to eat our food. We don't play around with it whatsoever. And one of the guys that on Lakers Twitter, for anybody that knows, right, if you know to know and you know people that know what they're talking about, Vinay is for sure somebody that's going to pop up for you and repeatedly on your timeline. Today, Vinay is joining us on the show, man. How are you doing, bro?
How are you doing, Melvin? I am very happy, honored, humbled to be part of your radio show with all the folks in New York that are going to be listening in. And just like you, I slept great last night because the Lakers won. And we're going to the finals after 10 years.
Man, definitely. It's been a long 10 years. I think that I was, first of all, let me say thank you so much for coming on as well. Greatly appreciate it. Before we get into any of that, can you tell us a little bit about your newsletter so that way we can make sure to plug that so people can go ahead and check it out?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So, you know, I just have this little newsletter. It's an email newsletter that I do. It's mainly Lakers content. But there's usually a lot of other basketball stuff that I like to write about because my life revolves around the NBA season. I try to watch as much as I possibly can. It's called Charitra. You can find me on Twitter at VKillem, VKILLEM, and the link to the newsletter is right there in the bio. That's pretty much all I'm at. So that's the easiest way to kind of engage with me.
Perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure to go ahead and find him on Twitter, VKILLEM, so that way you'll be able to not only click that follow button to follow him, but also sign up for the newsletter. We are signed up as well, so don't be out here in the street saying, hey, yo, V, I'm signed up, and then you're not signed up. Like, he can pull it up and look, so don't be that guy. Now, as we were getting into it, it's been a long 10 years, man. It's been a long 10 years. I remember hoping and praying that Xavier Henry's wrist was going to be okay so he could average 18 a game. Hopefully that Darius Johnson-Odom could become a quality backup point guard, and maybe I'm forgetting, was it Morris from Michigan
Darius
that they drafted?
Yeah.
Darius Morris that they drafted. Oh, my God, man. Robert Sacre. Yep,
Devin Ebanks, Earl Clark. We thought he was going to be the next Lamar Odom for us. There's Kendall Marshall.
Really
there's
I remember
a lot
being so hurt that Kent Bazemore decided to leave. I was like, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's been you know, I'm sure some folks are probably gonna listen to this and be like, all right, bro, just 10 years. All you guys have to do is wait 10 years before you had to come back. And so respect to the fans that stick it out with their teams, whether it's 10 years or more when it comes to how much they love their hoops. But you know, at least for the Laker fans out here, it has been a long 10 years, and a lot of stuff has happened this year in itself. You know, obviously with Kobe's passing and the schedule going up and down, the pandemic. I mean, in California, it's like a firestorm for like the past 3 weeks, and people are, you know, having to be stuck inside their houses. It feels like it's only been 9 months in this year, but it feels like it's been, I don't know, like 9 years with all the stuff that's been going on, man. So it's just nice to be able to, you know, I'm grateful that basketball was able to come back. With the whole pandemic situation, we're able to watch it. And I'm just glad that the Lakers are you know, only 4 games away from completing their ultimate goal for this season.
100% agreed. And I will say as well, respect to all the fans out there, my roommate is actually a lifelong Knicks fan, so it's always rough on him whenever he's like, we're going to get Melo Ball, and they get the number 8 pick. And I'm like, sorry, bro, y'all got to get rid of the owner. You can go from there. But anyway, before we do move into more serious Laker news, it's actually funny that you bring up the wildfires that were going on, because on my YouTube channel, me and some of the comedy writers that I work with actually just put out a video recently speaking about that. And I would love to know from your perspective how things are going out there with it right now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so, things are going, the air quality is better. I would say, like, the fires were a little, they were kind of put down, I would say about like a week and a half ago, but the air quality was just really bad. And it was just kind of, if you guys have seen the pictures on social media and stuff like that, you've seen it like up in Portland and then in the Bay Area,
right,
and down here in Southern California. It's just like those clouds are gradually moving. The sun was red for a while, then it turned orange, and now, we're back to blue skies. So things are a bit more under control, but, this is not the first year this kind of stuff has happened out in Southern California and in California in general. So I think this may end up becoming the norm. Hopefully, we're not getting crazy fires where people have to stay stuck in the house for weeks. But right. It's just, people just got to be safe. And this is just kind of the direction with climate change, all that sort of stuff that things are going in. So, everybody's good here. I would assume for the most part. I know a lot of folks. I have some friends and family up in Portland. Some of them, they weren't displaced from their homes because of the fires, but I know that some folks are. So a lot of, a lot of prayers going out, and my thoughts are with the folks that, incurred any loss on their end.
Definitely. My thoughts and prayers are with anybody that's been going through it because of those wildfires and everything else that's going on this year. But I definitely took a bit more interest in it, obviously, because it's such a big part of what's going on here nationally for us. And then anytime you look in the sky and they're like, it's 3 p.m. and it looks like Blade Runner outside, I'm like, okay, we need to start treating this a little bit more seriously than what's been going on so far. So hopefully things do get a little bit better for you guys. And like you said, the air quality is improving. So as long as that continues, that will be ideal for everybody and everything that is going on. Now we can go ahead and transition into a little bit more of the Lakers and the lack of sleep we've all gotten over the past 24 hours. I would love to ask you first, what were your thoughts on the game overall? Because it seemed for a little bit that it could kind of go either way, and maybe that AD three-pointer to end the third going into the fourth might have been what helped to push the team over the edge. But while I've got my own theories, I would love to hear yours.
Yeah, I thought that game was probably the best outside of, if we don't include the blowout in game one, I thought that was probably the best Braun game of the series, just because of how he was playing. We know that he can get to the rim. We know the theme of the entire game 2, 3, and 4 was the refs. Braun not getting calls, or these guys getting calls and other guys not getting calls. And especially after game 4, there's a lot of complaining about the refereeing. But I thought yesterday there was an excellent. It was really what I thought Braun would be. Very methodical, very surgical. He wasn't getting sped up. He wasn't rushing his layups. It felt like he was really picking apart the Denver defense. And credit to Denver, man. That unlike, maybe the Rockets or the Blazers, they don't give up. And it really did look like Jamal was playing a little hampered. He played like 45 minutes in like games 2, 3, and 4. And it's only a day rest. If you've ever played basketball, like 45 minutes of in-game time is like 2.5 hours of basketball, 3 hours of basketball, if you include like the warm-up and stuff like that. And that's a lot of basketball to play every other day. And, I thought it caught up to him. But I thought they did a really, really good job battling back in that third quarter. And that's really been the story of their season. They always battle back. But I was very, very glad that AD hit that 3 to close that third, because I thought the Lakers were losing a lot of that momentum that they probably built in the first half. And the moment he hit that 3, I was like, all right, feels like the energy and the body language from the team is changing a little bit, and maybe they'll come out a little bit more sharp. And, what more can you say? That fourth quarter in a closeout game, LeBron James was sensational. He had been I thought maybe games 3 and 4 he had been a little like hesitant with his jump shot, a little hesitant going to the rim. And you know that's going to happen when you play against a zone defense. It changes the way that you have to play offense. You gotta think of like 5 different rotations before they actually happen. And I don't even know how to explain what he was doing, but the way he was getting to his spots and the way that he was shooting the ball, kind of with the confidence he was shooting with, it was unbelievable. And he wasn't getting calls. Okay, like I know TNT did a really, really good job making sure not to replay any of those drives that he was getting fouled on, because
you saw it too then.
Yeah. So because I was like, all right, we're not going to show a replay of that, right? And so they only showed it like once, I think, on like one of the Michael Porter Jr.'s fouls on LeBron, but that went uncalled. But you know, he took what they were giving him. They wanted to take away the paint. He started hitting mid-range shots. They started pressing up on him. He drove by him for layups. So you know, he was great. The Lakers did a great job attacking Jokic and keeping him in foul trouble. That's been like the theme of those past 3 games. Ever since they put Dwight in the game, or started Dwight, the Lakers just keep attacking him and attacking Jokic. And the same thing that the Clippers didn't do in the previous round, which is go to the paint and go to the rim, is the thing that the Lakers, they stayed disciplined and kept doing that. So it's a closeout game. I expect the best version of Bron, because he kind of lives for these sort of moments. And I can't say anything else, man. He's the leader that Laker fans have been expecting to see. And, you know, sometimes he may have up and down games, but, that's why we got Anthony Davis. And, you know, Davis has had the game winner in game 2, and he's had some really high scoring games. But this is the way basketball works. I think we've been spoiled, or the NBA audience thinks that everything's supposed to be a blowout. But sometimes these games are, you got to grind them out, and that's exactly what the Lakers did.
100%, man. I couldn't agree with everything that you said any more or stated it any better than what you said overall. I think LeBron was pretty masterful in showcasing this is why and this is how I've been that guy to been able to pull teams that should not have been in the finals whatsoever there, or take teams and exceed expectations, and you can understand why they crater so much when it is that he leaves. Additionally, I thought that AD, there are times where I am a bit hesitant on him being such a perimeter shooter. I would love for him to be able to mix it up down low more consistently. However, when the jumper's falling, he ain't going to get a peep out of me. I'm not going to say nothing. As long as he's doing what he needs to do, I'm good. And Dwight did show a bunch of shades of, Orlando Dwight, when he was being able to run down early, pin him down, get to the basket and either get fouled or go to the free throw line. It definitely helped to push things along. I was so glad that Caruso was being able to be consistent on the defensive end as well and not do anything that would be too ticky-tacky. I'm glad that KCP, there are a lot of times where I really get down on KCP and Danny Green. I'm like, guys, I just need a little bit more from you guys. But the amount of discipline and consistency that they've showed, that no matter what's happening on the offensive end, I'm not going to let up on the defensive end. I'm going to consistently do my job and be there and show up, was so great. I overall was just absolutely thrilled with how everything was going last night. And when LeBron gets the jumper going, bro, it's game over. At that point, I remember screaming. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say for all, because a lot of, hoops purists and bag Twitter and NBA bag Twitter and all those guys that are always talking about, like, the skills and stuff that LeBron doesn't have. It's just like, it's pretty clear that, like, he's got it. Maybe he has, like, he's a little shaky in his confidence sometimes if his shot's not dropping, or if there's like a zone, he's not comfortable. So I get that. But it's like, we're talking about a guy who's, like, he's earned the equity of not taking a shot if he doesn't want to, Like, I understand that even me, I question sometimes what he's trying to do on offense, but like, he's earned that equity, and I think a lot of folks, there's a big contingent on NBA Twitter, fans that are, have followed Bron throughout his entire career. And even they were like, all right, Bron really not going to take this mid-range jumper? Like, well, they're giving it to him wide open. And yesterday, I feel like everybody was real quiet about it because, I mean, he went on a mid-range shooting stretch, and I was out of my mind. I was like, I can't believe this guy's hitting these shots right now. And he was hitting. It wasn't even like those mid-range shots that are like in the paint. He was hitting like these long twos, like the ones that the analytics guys hate the most, and they're like, you shouldn't take this shot, just take a three instead. And it just felt nice to be able to see a guy just kind of take the shot that the team, the best available shot, and hit it with confidence. So it was an amazing performance by him last night, and I'm on board with you as well. I think it's frustrating sometimes when we see guys like Danny Green and Caruso and Rondo and Kuzma, Pope. But sometimes we forget. This is what it's supposed to be like. Like, we can't expect them to hit 100% of their shot. Obviously, we don't want them to shoot like 15%, something better than that. But I guess for the folks that are listening, the best way I can explain it is this: the league average for like shooting threes, like an average 3-point shooting thing, shoots at like 35%. Okay, the Lakers don't even have to shoot 35% from three, and they can win by double digits. That's how good this team is defensively. Okay, they're I think the record now, including yesterday, if the Lakers shoot 30% or better from three, which is not good. That is actually really bad. 30% from three, they're undefeated. Imagine that margin of error. That's crazy. If you only got to make 30% of your threes, and we're in a basketball era where, like, threes are like the hot thing. Like, take as many threes as you possibly can if you don't get a layup. And the Lakers are like the antithesis of that, right? Their whole offensive strategy is, we're going to play our big. We're not going to stretch the floor, outside of certain situations. And we're just going to keep attacking the rim all day. And we're okay with shooting only 30% from three. And that's it's just crazy, considering what we've been watching over the past, 6-7 years of people just being 3-point happy and just shooting it all day. So it's the Lakers don't have, the Lakers role players, they're great at what we want them to do, which is play defense, stay in front of your guy, create turnovers, and just hit like 30% of your shots. As long as they do that, Bron and AD are going to get that chip for us. So that it's the way I like to say it to everybody is, do you feel anxiety when you watch Laker games? Good, because that's what it's like. That's how bad. That's how you should feel when you watch basketball games. I watched Kobe and Shaq three-peat. I watched Kobe and Powell go to the finals 3 times and win 2 of them. There was always anxiety. It's never easy. That's the way the game is played. That's what makes the game so beautiful. That's what makes the experience of watching your favorite team fight through some adversity to do it. And props to Denver, man. Outside of that first game, they never went down. They were not going to get blown out. And but that's the way it is. That's what makes it so much more fun.
Yeah. Denver is a team that I, not even tip my hat. I like take it all the way off, put it on my shoulder, and just like put it underneath my arm and clap for them, because they fought this entire series. Like, especially when you think about, granted, you have the ESPN saying, okay, well, Lakers might not make the playoffs in some instances, some people were saying, but, they're one of the teams that could be up there if they play to their potential. But that was mostly on the back of how well Nikola Jokic would be playing, right? Nobody expected Jamal Murray to be this hot, this consistent. And if they're able to do this, I'm telling you, as soon as Michael Porter Jr. figures out how to rotate defensively and realizes he's 6'10", 6'11" with his arms up, game is over. Like, there's no possible way to be able to slow them down.
Yeah, I did not expect Murray to be as good as he was. But then seeing how he was him and Jokic were kind of torching the Clippers, I definitely did not take them for granted. Because I just thought to myself, I was just like, look, man, they're young guys, and if there's any rule with young guys, like, they're playing with house money, and when young guys play with house money, they're not afraid to do anything. And I mean, Murray was incredible. I know he was this closeout game, he didn't play too well, but like game 4, he was hitting some ridiculous shots. And I was just like, dude, the Lakers are playing amazing defense. Green is forcing him to take shots off of his wrong foot, wrong hand, and he's just making them. And I was just
not to cut you off, you know who he reminded me of? He reminded me a lot of Kobe in the sense of how there's no way in hell this shot is going in. But for some strange reason, you just, I'm falling to the left side, left-handed, away from the basket, in. And I'm just thinking about, man, is this how every other team felt when Kobe would do this over the years. Like, I get it now. This just sucks to watch.
And it's it wasn't like he was trying to hunt mismatches. He was going right at Green. He was going right at Pope. Obviously, it slowed down for him once Braun was on him. But I agree with you. There was a shade of that, like, just I'm going to get this shot off no matter what, and I'm going to take the best possible attempt. And he just kept making them. And there, I want to say in like yesterday's game, there was like, I want to say in the stretch of third quarter where he kept getting mismatched on Kuzma, he hit like two really tough, like flat-footed pull-up mid-range jumpers. And I was just like, oh, shit, he's going to start doing this. And, they may come back. But hats off to Murray, hats off to Jeremy Grant, who shot out of his mind. I was like, how did this guy, all this, start making these shots? But, when you play the Lakers, they bring the best out of you. Like, you're not going to, when you got to play against a franchise like the Lakers, like, it's always going to bring the best out of the guys that are playing against them. And we've seen that in the regular season. When the Lakers come to town, even when they're terrible, everybody shows up and sells out those games because, it's the Lakers. And so I think that team has a really great future. I agree with you. I think MPJ just needs to kind of figure out a little bit on his rotations and just kind of his defensive technique, but he's got all the physical, skill sets that he needs to be successful. And I think that Monty Morris is a really, really underrated backup point guard, backup scorer for that team. And they didn't even have Will Barton. So
oh my God, I was saying the same thing. I would have been terrified if Will Barton started coming off the bench. Like, they're going to be extremely dangerous moving forward. But, Jeremy Grant may take that player option, and if LeBron and AD pulled up on him that way last night, who knows how that clutch dinner might end up.
Lakers could definitely use a wing guy like Jeremy, but I think he probably doubled his contract value with how he played in the playoffs. So it's again, kudos to him, kudos to Denver for really making it. I know people are going to look at it and just be like, well, they lost in 5 games, but it's never just like the end result. It's how you get to that point, right? Like, if you're a Lakers fan, like, you're happy that they finished this off in 5 games, but if you watch the games, you're like, yeah, these games went down to the wire. These weren't like 30-point blowouts, 15-point blowouts. So, that's just the way the game goes. But very, very proud of this Lakers team. And, a thing that I always try to do just as a fan of the game, fan of the team is I try to, like, after the game's done, I just turn everything off. I just kind of sit there for like 5-10 minutes and like reflect on like what the team was doing and what the team's done so far. And it just boggles my mind that this team only brought back like maybe 4 or 5 players from last year and brought in a whole brand new coaching staff, a brand new superstar in Anthony Davis, and they're at this point. And it just kind of speaks to like the chemistry building and the camaraderie with the team and stuff like that. And you're just doing it the right way, man. You can't disrespect the game and take shortcuts and stuff like that. And you have to go through the process. Can't take games off and just do what they have to do. And they've managed. It's props to this coaching staff. They managed to keep LeBron's minutes. Like, he's playing like less minutes in the playoffs than he did in the regular season, which is crazy. Yeah,
which is absolutely insane.
Yeah, so it's a lot of props to the coaching staff. A lot of props to the role players for playing in a way where they don't got to put a lot of strain on guys like Braun and guys like AD. And when they do, they come through more often than not. So it's been great, man. I'm really looking forward. I'm going to be catching that the Boston Miami game to see who kind of comes up next. Hopefully by the time this is released, we'll know. But if not, that's additional rest for our guys. So we'll see how it goes.
Agreed. Now I do want to get into a little bit of matchups for whoever will come out the East, but I want to take it back real quick when we talk about this Lakers season overall, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, which led right into what I wanted to ask you your thoughts on this. You come into this year, they only bring a certain amount of guys back. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, you're bringing back Caruso, LeBron, Kuzma, Rondo, McGee, but almost everybody else KCP as well. Everybody else is like somebody brand new. Then we go into the year, DeMarcus Cousins is going to be our big man off the bench, right? And then he messes up his knee. And then we go over to, is it going to be Dwight? It's going to be Joakim Noah. It turns into Dwight Howard. Then Kuzma had his injury when he was playing for the Olympics. So he couldn't start off the year and really get into that kind of rhythm. We saw him do it a couple times where, especially like I believe it was the Christmas Day game and a few other games where he got hot early on and was able to show what his ceiling can be when he ultimately is able to hit those shots and play well early on. Then you move into Kobe passing and everything that happened with that. Then you go to Troy Daniels being waived and picking up Deion Waiters. Then we have coronavirus and everything that's going on. Then we go to the bubble. Avery Bradley isn't coming. And we go to J.R. Smith. This team has dealt with so much on top of what you said as well, bringing in an entirely new coaching staff too. This team has been through so much, and for them to say we're going to make sure that all of us are in lockstep every single part of the process to ultimately end up here now is exactly why both of us did not get any sleep last night, and exactly why everybody that is a Lakers fan is so excited, because we're seeing nobody's cheating the process, right? Nobody's saying I need to, granted, there are some teams with players that may have career injuries like that where they may have to sit out a certain amount of games, right? But it's more, let's not talk about it. Let's actually be about it. And I just want to ask you a little bit more about all those things that they've been through and to be here, just kind of that significance.
Yeah, I mean, that it's a testament to the resilience of this team, right? Like, on top of all the things that you mentioned, right? This team was not favored to win the championship at the beginning of the season. This team, even at midseason, wasn't favored to win the championship. And then even towards the end, it wasn't until like maybe after they beat the Clippers in that first bubble game that people start saying, oh, all right, maybe the Lakers are actually a really good team that has a really good championship chance. And it's a testament to the resiliency of what this team is. And, even on top of like all this stuff that sort of happened, like on the court, off the court, injuries, coronavirus stuff, there's a lot of stuff that not only the Lakers, but these NBA players are dealing with, especially with, what's gone on in the state of America with Black Lives Matter movement, all these injustices that are happening to the African American community. And I know that it's very easy for folks to compartmentalize stuff like this. It's easy to just watch a basketball game and not think about anything that goes on. But eventually that game has to end, and you have to go back to real life and reading about stuff that's going on in the country and reading about stuff that happens in your neighborhoods and all that sort of stuff. And it's crazy to think that, and this is not exclusive to the Lakers, it's to all these teams that are participating in the sport, and other sports like football and stuff like that. It's crazy to think that we expect, it's crazy to think that like these players are now becoming like the ambassadors to the community in a way that maybe even our local politicians or our local folks haven't been. This is the first time in my life, and I've been watching the NBA for, I don't know, like 25 years now. This is the first time in my life that I've seen where it almost feels like these guys are doing two jobs. Like they're going to go play basketball, and then as soon as they're done going to go play basketball, they're advocating for their communities, or they're trying to negotiate with the NBA governors to secure more funding for local programs for kids and stuff like that. And I know it's not exclusive to the Lakers, but considering all the stuff that's happened for the Lakers, it's just, I can only imagine what sort of weight, there is on the players' shoulders. And I know a lot of times, we talk about what's the next generation of the NBA. Is it Trae Young, or is it Luka Doncic, or is it Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, all these different guys. But sometimes it just kind of makes you think that there's like some sort of cosmicness to this, that like LeBron comes to probably the biggest market, biggest franchise 1 year ago. And all this stuff kind of happens. And now not only is he like a representative for the league, he's a representative for one of the biggest organizations in sports. And the way that he's kind of carrying himself, and the way he's sort of leading his team, as well as, a lot of the rest of the NBA fans, or not fans, sorry, NBA players, as they go through this process. It's so much. That's what I was trying to get at. It's just so much. And I can't, as a fan, I can't do anything other than just be grateful for being able to watch my favorite team play and watch these guys compete, as well as take on all these other responsibilities that really aren't their responsibilities. So it's hats off to the whole team, man. It's hats off to all these teams that are making this happen. Like, I think as of now, any team that's still in the bubble has basically been in the bubble for like 3 months. So they've more or less been away from their family for like 3 months. And this is summertime, or summertime's almost over, but like they've been away from their kids if their kids can't come inside the bubble and stuff like that. So they've missed out on entire summer vacations and stuff like that with their family. Just to earn a living, just to play, just to hoop, and all these things that are happening and stuff like that. So I think we can't forget that not only are these guys athletes, not only do we root for them because we want them to win, and put their names in cement and solidify their legacies, but they're also human. They've got to handle these responsibilities, and their parents, their sons, their brothers, their sisters, and their families. They're still responsible to them, and that's kind of, I don't know, that I feel like that's been the theme to 2020. Like, hey, do your job and do it well, but at the same time, the world is on fire when it comes to different things, literally and figuratively, so metaphorically. So it's just, it's been a lot, and I really appreciate everybody that's been able to be successful and help push this team forward.
Likewise, man, it's a insurmountable amount of pressure that these athletes consistently have to go through, being some of the peak performers in the world at their sport. And then you add on that you want them to be able to carry entire social justice causes as well. I don't think people realize the amount of things that are probably going through their head, or the things that they have to deal with on a consistent basis, making sure that they are always consistent with what they're saying, that what they're saying reverberates well with who it is that they want to be and that they see themselves as. There's a lot that we don't see behind the scenes that I, similar to what you're saying, take my hat off to them, because the pressure that they have to deal with, I'm sure, as LeBron said the other day in reference to someone that was saying something to him, a lot of people couldn't withstand that, and the fact that people are right now, and the fact that they are right now, really shows the resilience in them that hopefully will be able to continue to shine through whomever that next generation is. And I'm glad that the Lakers have to be such a big, important piece of that moving forward. Now, as we talk about moving forward and we go into who's going to come out the Eastern Conference, I love saying this because I remember the day that KD and Kyrie signed to come to Brooklyn, right? I remember the entire time that the Lakers were waiting on Kawhi. There was one player before they signed that I said, please, I understand how good Kawhi is, but don't worry about him. Go after this guy. Because if you get this guy, I promise you everything is going to work out. Because he has that I'm bringing my lunch pail mentality that will fit so well with what AD and LeBron are putting together. And now he's just succeeding out there in Miami. And I'm like, well, looks like we might have a chance to play against them in the finals. We'll see how it goes. But that's if they can handle business, because Boston is starting to pull things together and see if they can extend this to a Game 7 with Game 6, which is going to happen tonight at the day of this recording. So I would love to ask you, one, who do you think is going to ultimately pull this out? And who do you think is the better matchup for the Lakers overall? Because we know that obviously it would be nice to play against Boston for, legacy, rings, Boston, LA rivalry, right? But I personally would enjoy seeing LeBron beat Pat Riley for another ring. Like, I kind of would be happy about that. Or beat Pat Riley for a ring, but yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say a lot of the Braun folk on Twitter have been DMing me, telling me that the Lakers that they got the feeling that Braun's got some unfinished business with Pat Riley, after his departure from Miami and stuff like that. Granted, he did win a championship in Cleveland, but sticking it to Pat directly, it's funny because obviously Pat was a Laker great himself, so it's kind of, like I said, the whole cosmicness of all of this and like how everything's coming full circle. It's just really funny. It cracks me up, but just kind of looking forward, I think Miami and Boston are really matched to each other, but they just they come about it in different ways. So, this is kind of similar to what we've seen with the Lakers too, to some degree. If you remember, all season long, the team that was supposed to be like the Lakers' number one, we're not going to let you win the championship. If you can't beat us, you're not going to win the championship, was the Clippers. And one of the things that people used to always do with comparing the Lakers to the Clippers is that they would take all the players on the Clippers and they'd basically imagine putting them on a list. And then they would take all the Laker players and they put them on a list. And then they would try to combine that list together. And basically what folks would say is, well, even if the Lakers had the best two players between these two teams, or like two of the top three guys between these two teams, when you combine them, the Clippers have like the next 6 or 7 guys before you get to the Laker name. And that was usually the sentiment that people had when it came to which team is better, which team isn't. If you look at that Celtics and Miami team, and you had to do the same exercise, you take all the Miami players, all the Celtics players, and rank them all together, 1 to 30. You probably have a lot more Celtics guys in the top 10 than you probably do Miami guys. But that's not how basketball works, right? Mm-hmm. That's how it works. Maybe if you go and play pickup at LA Fitness or Lifetime Fitness, whatever's out there, or 24-hour fitness, that works because there's no rhyme or reason when you play pickup basketball. You're just kind of, whoever's got the best players will probably win. But in the NBA, where you have these high-level coaches who are scheming and high-level coaches who create entire structures on offense and defense and make adjustments to whatever you're doing, when you have teams that do stuff like that, it doesn't matter necessarily how your talent kind of stacks up in the rankings. It all comes down to fit. So the reason why the Lakers have been so good is, sure, they may have the best two guys that are on the floor compared to any other team at 1 and 2. But even if the rest of the guys don't even crack the top 10, they amplify the first two guys to be so successful, and that our best two guys amplify the other guys to be so successful that it ends up it ends up kind of negating what skills the other guys have. So a perfect example of this is Dwight Howard, right? Dwight probably wouldn't be that high up if you had to stack up the Denver roster versus the Lakers roster. He'd be lower. But if you pair Dwight with Anthony Davis or LeBron James, all of a sudden he's a double-double guy who's giving Jokic problems with his defense. Mm-hmm. And that's how the game works. And I think it's the same thing with Miami and Boston. Miami schematically, because they have a great coach in Eric Spoelstra, is able to stay in these games. All of these games have basically been dogfights between both teams. And, Miami's won the ones, most of them, 3 out of the 6 they played so far, or the 5 they played so far. And but the difference between those two teams is very slim. And I think what happened in the last game was Jason Tatum just rose above everybody else. All the schemes and the defensive schemes and offensive schemes that everybody had, Jason Tatum just had a huge third quarter and he won it. So I think these teams are really close. I think that Miami should win this just because they've got the defensive bodies and stuff like that when it comes to kind of figuring these things out. And it took a really, really explosive game from one of the Boston players to sort of win it. But at the same time, the margins are so close between the two teams, I also wouldn't be surprised if Boston makes a comeback on them. And that's just kind of the way it goes, man. You look at the closeout game the Lakers have. If LeBron doesn't hit all those shots, or if he's not as great as he was, maybe Denver pushes us to a game 6, and maybe then pushes us to a game 7. That's how slim the margins are. This is conference finals basketball. So if I had to take a guess, I would guess that Miami closes them out, just because I don't know. I think Spoelstra's a really good coach, and they'll figure out what things that they need to fix in order to be better. But if you asked me to put money on it, I don't think I would put money on it, because it just depends. Boston's got a bunch of guys that can make shots in a pinch and can play isolation and stuff like that. So and to answer your other question, which matchup is better? They both pose different. There's pros and cons to playing both. Boston's got a bunch of individual guys with Jaylen Brown, Kemba, and obviously Jason Tatum. Individual guys that can score, that aren't like role players. They're similar to like the Kawhi and Paul George combo. But at the same time, they play small. Like Daniel Tice, he's a small guy. I think their true big is probably like Enes Kanter, who's terrible on defense, and then Robert Williams, who's he's good on defense, but he's not a very like great offensive player. He's a rim runner, that sort of thing. But as we've seen, the Lakers, if you have two guys that you basically rely on going isolation the whole time, the Lakers will put their best defenders on them, and you're going to have to make really, really tough shots on them in order for that to happen. So that there's a pro and con to that situation. The Lakers have the size, that could be a really good AD matchup where he could, and with him finding his mid range, he could just light it up from basically anywhere on the court that he wants to, and Boston would have some trouble with that. But Miami poses a different kind of threat, right? They play based on their scheme. They play based on what the defense is allowing them to do. So they like to cut to the rim. They'll, Dragic and who am I thinking of? Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo. Like they'll collide. They'll rough it up. They'll muck up the game. It's a battle in the trenches with that team, and they're a really, really good defensive team, and they have probably one of the smartest coaches in the league. So, but at the same time, they're not a great offensive team. So that kind of helps the Lakers out, right? Because the Lakers have been playing some ridiculous offensive teams. They just ran through Dame. They just played Harden. And now they had to run through Murray, who was probably like the best scorer in the bubble until he got knocked out. So this might be refreshing for the Lakers to have to play against a team that's not scorching on the offensive end. But again, they grind it down on the deal. Like Bam, Miami can play Bam on an 80 straight up. It doesn't mean he's got to stop 80, but it's an easier matchup in that regard. There may not be any double teams and stuff like that. And so in terms of like looking at matchup, and which one would probably benefit the Lakers more, I would say Miami's probably the team that benefits the Lakers more, only because they're not as great of an offensive team as the teams that the Lakers have played against, but they are a really, really good defensive team. That's kind of where their identity is. And for the Laker fans who are listening to this, the two kinds of sets that Miami loves to run, which is the pick and roll for the ball handler, Dragic, and all of the dribble handoff stuff, the DHO stuff that they love to run for Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, the Lakers are actually really, really good at defending that. Pope, Rondo, and Caruso are really, really good at poking the ball away when they're running that DHO action. And so the fact that Bam also can't really shoot from three because they like to run it through him makes it easier to play a guy like Dwight Howard, because we don't got to worry about, Dwight having to chase a three-point shooter all the way out, if he pops out or something like that. So there are some benefits in between the lines that the Lakers would get out of that. But hey, I'm like you, man. If we're gonna tie Boston, I'm more than happy to beat Boston in the finals, because LA Boston is a different kind of rivalry that I don't know if social media was kind of aware of, and Laker fans don't like Celtics fans at all, and it gets very, very personal. So it's both storylines are great. LeBron beating Pat Riley, Lakers being the Celtics, and what better way for if the Lakers win for LeBron to like kind of put his name in the rafters than to beat the Celtics. So it would be amazing either way.
Yeah, man, 100% on board with. See, I like having this conversation. I don't disagree with anything that you say. I'm like, oh, he's been paying attention to the dribble handoffs too. Great. I was thinking Dwight would be able to get some more minutes, because who else is Miami going to put in the lineup? Like, you're not asking Udonis Haslem to go put on his uniform to come out there, because that's not going to happen. So JaVale may also be able to revert back to shades of who he was previously, with not having to be in as much foul trouble, because Bam isn't there just yet offensively to be that skilled. While he is extremely skilled, don't get me wrong, he's not to the point of where I have to be so worried about it. So, man, I'm hoping for Miami too. I would love to see a knockdown, drag them out fight between both teams, because while I do believe that Miami is a very tough team, I obviously believe that the Lakers are the better of the remaining three teams, and regardless of who they play, I think that they'll have the upper hand. But it would just be so cool to be like, oh, Pat Riley, what's up, man? I came to L.A. and got my ring from you, so thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much.
I was joking with my brother. I was watching my I was watching the game with my brother yesterday, and we were watching that like post game interview that they did with Rob Pelinka, where they had them come up during the trophy speech or whatever. And I was just telling my brother, I was just like, man, Rob looks like some younger version of Pat Riley. Like he does hair a little bit shorter. But if he had to like, you know, apply all that grease or whatever it is that Pat's got in his hair, he could definitely pull it off. So it's just, you know, like I said, cosmically, it's just kind of funny the way that it all kind of works out. But look, man, I believe in this Lakers team. I always thought they were much better than the media was getting credit for. I know Lakers Twitter is taking, basically after every win, they're taking victory laps on any ESPN analyst or Fox or whatever media company. And they're taking their victory laps on them, and they're not going to stop. And if the Lakers win the championship, they're going to be doing it all off season as well. So it's that's just how the game goes, man. A lot of people put their chips in other teams, and whoever's anti-Bron or anti-Lakers is on like their fifth team right now that they're rooting for. So there's a little bit of an identity crisis going on with non-Laker fans. So you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, they're gonna have to go ahead and get that together. Be like, which team are you gonna root for next year? Are you back with the Clippers, or are you now gonna be on Golden State that they'll be healthy, or is it gonna be Denver now? Are we going out east? Like is Mike D'Antoni gonna go to Philly? Like what's gonna happen, guys? We'll ultimately see what happens there. Okay, so first of all, I want to say, Vinay, thank you so much for everything that you've given to me and all the listeners so far. And again, for anybody that is listening out there, please make sure to go follow him on Twitter. It is VKILLEM, and make sure that you click the link in the bio on Twitter to sign up for his newsletter.
One thing I was going to mention, because you are in New York, and you did mention you have a roommate that is a Knicks fan, a tortured Knicks fan. I just wanted to say that I know there's been a lot of hubbub about, you know, like Kyrie and Durant choosing the Nets over the Knicks. And I know Knicks fans they don't like Dolan at all. But just from like an objective, like looking at it from the outside looking in, I think the Knicks made the right move going for Leon Rose and getting a guy who's tapped in with, you know, other agents and stuff like that. And I don't know if the Nets are gonna be world beaters like everybody's explaining. You know, everybody's kind of talking about. We've seen what happened with the Clippers and how you have to manage guys that have very, very overlapping skill sets. So if I'm a Knicks fan, I don't think you guys are, especially in the East. I don't think it takes a whole lot to become a competitive team. I think you just got to have guys that buy into the process. And I'm not crazy about Thibodeau, but he does offer some structure, you know, and philosophy to a team that really needs that. So all they need is really maybe one or two guys. And it doesn't have to be a Kevin Durant. Obviously, that would be helpful if you're trying to win a championship. But I think what we've seen with Miami is if you have a culture that, you know, is about winning, making all those in-between plays, you can win. You don't need a guy that's Kevin Durant. Maybe all you need is a guy like Jimmy Butler at a Jimmy Butler level and a good scheme behind him. So it's I would keep my head high because I know that out here in LA, I see some very bold Knicks fans who are always wearing their Knicks gear no matter what. So and I've been in New York. I love New York. So it's a wonderful city. So I hope I can offer some positivity to your Knicks fans that are listening to as well.
You know, I'm definitely going to first tell my roommate all the positivity that you're spreading to him, and then I'll make sure to blast this among all the rest of them that I know. And I do, you know, I'm similar with you in what you're saying in that I'm originally from Chicago, right? So I was able to see a little bit more about what was going on with Thibodeau, and I liked the Thibodeau hire for them because, yes, they did miss out on Kyrie and KD. That's perfectly fine. They put themselves in a position to where they were where we were after Kobe left. You're in a place of, okay, let's find some consistency and kind of like a foundation with this team and begin to build that so that way when someone is available and they want to take a look at us, we can kind of get rid of the stain of who we have been for the past X amount of years and move forward to look at what we have to be able to go out and get more to be put around you. Look at what we have on a coaching standpoint, right? Look at the young pieces that we have here that are developing. You know, obviously the Lakers wouldn't have been able to get Anthony Davis without having the Lonzo Ball, the Josh Hart, the Brandon Ingram, and so on and so forth. Whereas when I look at the Knicks right now, you know, R.J. Barrett isn't that bad overall. He's got some things he needs to work out, but so does every young kid when they're coming into the NBA. Mitchell Robinson is looking like a steal compared to what he'll be able to give you moving forward in today's NBA. And if you got those two guys to be able to build around, and all you need is somebody to say, I'm not happy, I'm going to go to New York, or be in free agency and say, you know what, New York is kind of putting some stuff together. I'd like to play in the Garden. Let me go wake up that fan base and see what happens. You put yourself in such a better position, to now attract something like that than what you were doing before. So they'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, you said it. Yeah, you said it perfectly. You just have to build. You have to have structure. Once you have structure, then it makes it easier for somebody to say, okay, I'll buy into what's going on over here. And if anything else, like I said, you know, I'm a superstitious guy. I always believe that the basketball gods are always watching everything that people do. And I never think that it's a good thing, you know, if you're a fan base that starts kind of crowning yourself before you've actually done anything. And I think not the Nets fans per se, but maybe the Nets organization has kind of started skewing in that way a little bit. You know, if the Knicks look like underdogs, then maybe that becomes a more attractive place. We saw it with the Clippers. The Clippers are essentially the Nets West, in my opinion. So, you know, new owners, young guys trying to like build up the franchise, and they're doing it by basically disrespecting the franchises that have always been there. So that didn't work out very well for the Clippers. It may not work out well for the Nets, but you just gotta keep at it. So I'm probably higher on the Knicks than some other folks are, but it'll take time, but they'll get there.
Yeah, agreed. I'm again, we've been saying it the entire time we've been on the line so far, but I'm in total agreement with you in everything that you're saying, and I'll take that a step further and say, you know, they really want to wait to see what it is that they're saying and how they're moving and how they're acting, because as much as I love Kevin Durant's game, a part of it does rely on some of the explosiveness that he has. If you're not going to be able to have that same amount coming off that Achilles injury, you look like a different guy. Now, with that being said, I will take 80% Kevin Durant over almost anybody else in the NBA.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Like, you're still going to do that. However, that does play into what they're going to need to have happen, who Kyrie's going to have to be, what DeAndre Jordan's going to have to do, what Steve Nash as the coach is going to have to do, and so on and so forth. So I'm in total agreement with everything that you said so far, and we will ultimately see how that happens. And, you know, hopefully once all this stuff is over with and you make your way to New York, we can have you in the studio and then talk more about all of this as well. Vinay, thank you so much for coming on to the show, man. I greatly appreciate it.